Hello guys and welcome again to Legacy IS Academy. So here we continue with our NCERT series. Now we have already covered 13th chapter of 6th standard NCERT and now here we start with the 14th chapter. So remember, with respect to Indian economy in your 6th standard NCERT there are two chapters, 13th and 14th. We are now going to start with the 14th one. If you have not gone through the 13th one, I advise you to go through that and then come on to this 14th chapter. Right. So this chapter 14 is about the economic activities that are happening around us. Now, every chapter of NCERT is beginning with a quote or a saying, right? So does this chapter. It talks about a quote by Kautilya's Arthashastra, right? So it says that the root of prosperity is economic activity. The lack of it brings material distress. The absence of fruitful economic activity endangers both current prosperity as well as the future growth. And as I have told you before, these sayings and quotes can be used directly by you in your answers, in your essays. So take them quite seriously, make a note of them at some place so that you can utilize in your mains. Now, at the beginning of each chapter, as I told you previously, that there are certain questions which it says it will be answering throughout the chapter. So what are the questions here? Let us have a look at that. Right. So we have over here three questions. Right. These three questions are what? The first question, how economic activities are classified. Right. So we look at the classification of the economic activities. Then what differentiates these activities to be grouped into the different sectors. And third, how are the three sectors interconnected? So we will look at the classification of the economic activities and what differentiates the different sectors that are there and how all the sectors are actually related or connected with each other is what we are going to see. Now, in chapter 13, it talks about what all we have learned. We have learned about two activities, that is economic activity and non-economic activities. Now, what are economic activities? The activities that create monetary value are economic activities. The one do not create monetary value are non-economic activities. So what is a monetary value? Monetary value is basically value of something that can be measured in terms of money. In terms of money, that is your monetary value. Right. So let's get started with this chapter. Now, over the decades, there have been number of economic activities, but these economic activities have tremendously increased over the last few decades. Example that this book says is that previously people were involved in what? Agriculture, livestock rearing, production of tools, pottery, weaving clothes, and maybe for the name of services there was transportation, and of course banking was there, but transportation, etc., storage facilities was provided. But as the society has progressed, what has happened is the number of economic activities through which the people can earn their livelihood, that number has actually vastly increased. Right. Now, presently today, there are diverse form of economic activities that are present, way more than that was present in the last few decades. Activities such as manufacturing computers, mobile phones, drones, computer application, mobile phone applications, working in banks, schools, hotels, driving various types of vehicles, transportation, furniture, tailoring, clothes, using machines, creating software, apps, as I said, repairing refrigerators, washing machine, all that. Certain things which we used to previously do on our own is now being done by someone else, so it gets converted into the economic activity. Now, we need to classify all these activities. Why? So as to understand how they function and what are the links that they carry. So when we classify the economic activities, we will group them into economic sectors. So what are these economic sectors? These are nothing but broad groups that will include various activities that help with the economic prosperity of a nation. So various similar activities will get added in a single sector, which will be known as an economic sector, right? So the activities that share similar characteristics, based on those similar characteristics, they can be grouped together and hence classified in a broader group, which will be known as the economic sector, right? Now, in the economy, there are three main types of economic sector. That is the primary, the secondary, as well as the tertiary. So let's look at the very first one, that is the primary sector. Now the primary sector is those sector in which the people of course are related to economic activity only, but the people are directly dependent on the nature of the produce that they are producing, that is related to nature. The production that they are coming up with is basically related to the nature. So what is the primary activity? Those economic activities in which people are directly dependent on nature, directly dependent on nature to produce the goods, that is known as primary activity, and these activities are grouped in a sector known as the primary economic sector. So this is the definition of the primary sector that you have. The group of activities that involves the extraction of raw materials, right, directly from where? Directly from the natural sources. So these activities or the sector will include what kind of things? Farming, fishing, forestry, mining. All these activities will be in your primary sector. I hope that's clear. So we have a good understanding of the primary sector over here. We'll come back to this graphics later on. Now, examples of the primary activity is what? The cultivation of grains, vegetables, agriculture farms, collecting woods from the forest, extracting coal from the mines, fish from the fisheries, egg from the poultry. All these are primary sector. The most common activities they say are agriculture, mining, fishing, raising livestock, forestry, etc. All these are basically primary sector activities which they have denoted over here. Greenhouse farming, any type of farming generally would be included here. Then mining, fish farming, forestry, and livestock rearing, which you can see over here, are all primary sector activities. Let's now move on to the secondary sector activities. Now, these are the activities in which people are dependent on what? People are dependent on the output of the primary sector. They get the output from the primary sector and then they convert it into the finished goods in the industries. So the activities which is dependent on the primary sector output in order to transform into other goods is known as the secondary sector activities, and all are included in the secondary sector. So what is our secondary sector? It is the group of activities that involves processing of raw materials. Which raw materials? That are derived from the primary sector into products for the sale of consumption. Now the examples that they give over here are the grains, for example, obtained from agricultural fields can be converted into flour in the flour mill. Extraction of oil from the groundnut and then processing of tea leaves to derive the tea powder that we get. Similarly, the wood that you get from the forest can be converted into furniture. Rajesh, you remember in the in the 13th chapter, who was converting wood into furniture. It can also be converted into paper, right? Then cotton to make clothes. Iron ore can be converted into steel, right? And the steel that is then converted can be used to make automobiles, etc. So these are our secondary activities. As you can see, automobile factory, the textile factory that is there, in the same manner the pharmaceutical factory, the furniture production, all these things come under the secondary sector employment that is there. Right, we'll come to the graphic that I showed you before, but let's move on to the tertiary activities before that. Why? Because that graphic includes all three activities or all three sectors. Now let's move on to the tertiary activities. What are tertiary activities? The activities which leads to the production of services. Services are intangible. You cannot touch, see, feel, or hold them. These are services. A sector which produces services is known as the tertiary sector. Now, tertiary sector or tertiary activities are those economic activities that provide support to people that are involved in either primary or secondary activities. So, people, those who are involved in primary or secondary activities, they can make they can use help or support of the activities that are involved in the tertiary sector. Such activities are known as tertiary activities and are grouped under the tertiary sector. So, what is a tertiary sector? It is the group of activities that involves provision of services, which basically complement both the primary as well as the secondary sector. For example, transportation, banking, management, so on and so forth. Now here they have given various examples as well. For example, communication services through mobile phones, internet, software development, services at hotel, restaurants, banks, school, hospitals, airports, shops, warehouses. What's a warehouse? A large building or a place where you can store your goods, products, etc. Right? That is a warehouse. So all these are tertiary sector economic activity and they are placed in the service sector. So I hope now all the three sectors are clear for us. So now let us go to this graphic that we had skipped and understand what are the primary, secondary and tertiary sectors. So here you have beautifully been given the classification of the economic activities into the different economic sectors. Here lies the primary sector. So what are the things in the primary sector? You have agriculture, you have mining, you have fishing. What is that? It is directly dependent on what? It is directly dependent on the nature. That is why primary activity. Raising livestock, forestry, so basically cutting of woods, etc., directly dependent on nature, directly dependent on nature over here. Now let's look at the secondary sector. Construction. Now it uses iron. Iron comes from mining iron ore, then only you can use it. Manufacturing again uses the output from the primary sector, providing basically the water supply, the solar power, electricity production. All these are secondary sector production that is taking place. Then you have the tertiary sector, in which basically the services are provided: healthcare, trade and logistics, communication that we saw, banking services, transportation services. All these are tertiary sector activity or the services sector activities, right? So I hope we have a good understanding of the different kinds of activities that are there. Services at airport, at retail stores, so on and so forth. The customer service providers are providing the services over there. Now, once we have understood the three types of sectors, let us now understand the interdependence among the sectors. Now, these three sectors are interdependent. To explain us that, the NCERT has taken the help of a dairy cooperative example. From farm to plate, they will talk about a place in Gujarat and they will showcase us with an example how there is interdependence. So what is a dairy? A dairy is a place where milk is collected and stored. That is a dairy, right? Now, these days, farmers in Gujarat greet the day with the clinking of milk pails and happy moos of their best friends, that is cows and buffaloes, who are their best friends. Why? Because they are the ones who are providing, the milk, right, which is used by them for their livelihood, right? Cows have a special place in the lives of the farmers and their families. The farmers, they milk the cows and sell the milk to the dairies nearby. Now, at the end of the month, they get paid for the milk that they are supplying with respect to the quantity and the quality that they have supplied. However, this was not the case about 50 years ago, is what is being said. In fact, more than 50 years ago. Right. So, we are being told the story of a milk cooperative named Amul, that is Anand Milk Union Limited. So, the brand that we know as today Amul is nothing but Anand Milk Union Limited. Now, in early 1940s, what used to happen is the farmers from Anand district, they would go and sell their milk in the neighboring villages. So, when they sell their milk in the neighboring villages, they have to cycle, they have to walk to the nearby villages to sell the milk, even whether it is raining, whether it is heat. Scorching heat is a big issue also, not for the person who is, not just for the person who's selling the milk, but also for the milk itself, because the milk can get spoiled. Now, the milk basically spoils, curdles very fast in the hot weather. So the farmers had to sell it very quickly before it could get spoiled. Now, this was a lot of effort for the farmer or for the people who are selling the milk for a small amount of money that they would earn. So they depended on the people who are known as middlemen. They would give their milk to these middlemen at very cheap rates. And these middlemen would then buy the milk at cheap rates and then they would sell it in the market at high rates. So these middlemen started earning the money, whereas the farmers were not earning much of money. Right. So the farmers, they collectively went to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, a staunch personality, a freedom fighter, and a great leader. So they went to him, right? They went to him and he gave them an amazing advice. He said them to form a cooperative. Now what is a cooperative? It's a group of people coming together voluntarily. Why? To meet their economic and social needs in a formal way. That is what a cooperative is. Now if they do that, they will not have to rely on the middleman. So what is a middleman? A person basically who buys goods from the producers and sells them to the consumer and earns the profit in middle. So that is what he advised. So on his advice, they set up Amul in 1946 under the leadership of Tribhuvan Das Patel, lawyer and freedom fighter, and Dr. Varghese Kurian, who was an engineer working in the dairy factory in Mumbai. Okay, remember these names can be asked as facts in your prelims as well. Right. Now, this initiative basically brought farmers together, including women as well, and it gave them the control over the production and sale of the milk, because now they are united. So if so they can sell the things together, they can negotiate together, so on and so forth. Now the milk producers, they collectively made their own decisions on all matters such as production, pasteurization and sale of the milk. Now what is pasteurization? It's basically the process in which the milk is preserved. How do they preserve it? They heat it at a specific temperature which kills the harmful bacteria in the milk, and the milk can last longer. That is what pasteurization is. So the tasks that they had in this process was shared by everyone. This helped them to raise their income gradually. They did not have to now depend on the middlemen, and they became like one big family. Now, as more and more farmers are going to join over here, the cooperative is going to keep on growing. The quantity of the milk is going to be collected, which is going to be higher. Right? When it happened, it became higher and higher. They decided to make other products out of it as well. Let's not limit ourselves to milk. Let's make paneer out of it. Let's make ghee out of it, curd out of it, so on and so forth. And today, the cooperative has a wide range of milk and milk products made out of the milk processing plants and factories all over India. So, and you will know that Amul sells a lot of milk and milk products. So, can you name a few of the products? For example, ghee is there. Of course, milk is there. Then ghee is there. Then paneer is there. Then you have butter as well. Then you have curd as well. All of these products of Amul are there. You have cheese as well, so on and so forth. Right? Now these products are then transported and sold in both small and large retail shop all over the country. In fact, they are also exported as well, and this is something that is quite amazing. So let us understand what is a factory. A factory is basically a building or a group of buildings that basically is a place where the things are manufactured or various components are put together to make a final product. That is what a factory is. What is a retail shop? Basically the sale of goods in small quantities to the end user wherever it happens is known as a retail shop. What is export? When we basically sell our goods outside the country, it is known as export, right? So what they started doing is process the milk, converted it from one form to another form, milk powder also, ghee, cheese, butter and many other such things. Now these economic activities are called secondary sector economic activities, wherein industry milk is being taken out from the cow. The cow gives us milk, so that's a primary activity, but then it is pasteurized, converted into other products in the industry. So this is the secondary activity. And what happens is, what do Amul do with all the products? They sell it. So when they sell it to various places, you will need transportation, you would need storage, you will need handling, so on and so forth. So the shipping through the railways, through the airways, through the maritime ways, through shipping services, transportation, storage, etc. All these services, these are tertiary sector activities. These all will be required in order to transport or sell the product to different places over the country and outside the world, outside the country as well. And these will be known as the tertiary activity. That means what? That means for the milk to be actually converted into various products and be sold, all these things together, for Amul to function, all the primary, secondary and tertiary activities are involved, and this is nothing but the interconnectedness of the three sectors that the book talks about. With the help of the image below also we can see, wherein a woodcutter is cutting the wood, it's getting converted into logs, it is then getting transported over here, converted into the paper in the industry. So this is forestry, cutting the wood. This is the primary activity. Transportation that is taking place, it is a tertiary activity. And the conversion of this into paper in the industry is a secondary activity. So you can see, for your for the wood, for the tree to be converted into paper, all three activities needs to function together. The paper, then the paper gets taken to different places and the books are printed, and finally you get the book from the retail shop. So again a tertiary sector, and this again a secondary sector, wherein in the industries it is getting printed. This is again a tertiary sector if it is getting transported. So you have all the sectors working in sync in order to provide the NCERT book that you are reading from. Hope that's clear. Now, none of the activities that were a part of the process, from extracting pulp from the trees to making the paper and finally producing the books, would have been possible had it not been for all the three sectors together. So all the three sectors needs to function together in order to add value and convert, and first extract the raw material, then convert the raw material into the finished goods and transport and make sure that it reaches all of us. I hope that's clear. So that is about the different types. Remember, these are the three main types of economic activities in the economy, and all of them are interconnected. I hope that's clear. If you have any doubts, please reach out to us. Please comment us. Please raise your doubts through our portal as well, and we will be responding to each and every doubts as well. So that is all about economy with respect to chapter 13 and chapter 14 in 6th standard NCERT. Now the other chapters related to economy will be in the next standards NCERT. So see you with the next standards NCERT with respect to Indian economy. All right, guys, that's about it from my end. Thank you so much. I hope you are all studying well and you are taking the benefit of these lectures. Thank you.